Hello, everybody. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today. Giving me just a little bit of your time. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. And we have a lot of things to talk about right now. The Denver Broncos went from having two viable options at quarterback to having none. So there's that. The SEC tournament starts today in Nashville. Does Tennessee have a chance? Obviously, some key injuries, some key players missing from the lineup for the Vols. So we have that to talk about and tear into. A lot more things happening around the NFL as teams start to try and scoop up some players to fill the holes and fill the needs that they have, especially at the running back position. This is boon or bust if you've got running back needs. Why wait and draft a guy that you don't know about if you can see a known commodity in the league and try and take a chance on him? Okay, especially since some of these guys aren't old. Okay, they might be a little up there for running backs, but you know, they're not old. Okay, so you've got a lot of things happening around the NFL. Also, in the news, weird things happening in Cleveland. The Cleveland Cavaliers are strange. LeBron James he's tweeting weird stuff. He's posting weird stuff on Instagram. And, I got to quote the Deadspin article from a week ago. LeBron, you okay, buddy? Is there something we can do for you? Help you out? Give you a hand there? Just the Cavaliers are possibly imploding. So the Eastern Conference obviously begins to open way, way, way back up. And, of course, the Brock Osweiler conversation from earlier, this has some impact for the Tennessee Titans as well, if you're a Titans fan. But before we jump into all of that, let's talk about the platforms. Where can you find us, and where can we reach you? Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are our favorite spots. If you search Hot News Talk Radio in any of those places, we are the first thing that comes up. We'd love to hear from you. We always respond. On YouTube, you can listen to our episodes of any show that we do locally. The David Tulis Show. You can do the Patriot Prepper Show, Binary with Russell Stroud, and, of course, the Clutch with Keon Rose featuring me and my noisy, obnoxious computer that plays music whenever it feels like it. So you can listen to all of those shows on YouTube, and you can go back through the classic episodes. We never call them old. If you'd like to stream live on your computer, maybe you're at work, maybe you're at home, just open up a tab, go to hotnewstalkradio.com. Straight up, and we stream 24/7, 365, and you can catch us on the TuneIn Radio app. It's free. Get in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store, download it to your mobile device, search Hot News Talk Radio, give us a follow, press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. You have no more excuses. We're all over the place. So, jumping into the first conversation of the day, because I really want to talk about what happened here with the Denver Broncos and Brock Osweiler, that the Broncos offered Brock Osweiler basically in the ballpark of $43 to $53 million a year, or $53 million over 4 years, and Osweiler turned that down. And it was the belief of many that the Broncos were lowballing him a little bit, right? But obviously, it's not like the Broncos had no leverage in the situation. You're lowballing him a little bit because you're a team that's capable of going to a Super Bowl, and who doesn't want to go to a Super Bowl? Okay, you just played behind a guy who honestly played worse than you, and you got to a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning being held together by silly putty and string and a paperclip. If you could get to a Super Bowl with old, beat-up Peyton Manning, surely Brock Osweiler could take you back. And Brock Osweiler, worth it for the Broncos to try and pay for to get back to the Super Bowl, because he's got He's got a few wins under his belt, the overtime victory in Foxborough against the Patriots, the Cincinnati victory that was a close game. He's proven that he has something of a skill set. Now, he's only got 7 games. It's a ridiculously small sample size to bet the farm on a guy. But when you consider the market of quarterbacks and how hard it is to find one that's even good, and if you turn to the NFL draft and look at your options, none of those guys are ready to start right away. Carson Wentz is a guy who everybody is in love with right now. And even the scout or expert that is the highest on Carson Wentz is going to tell you he's not ready to start year 1. You might run him out there year 2 after he's been in the league, after the speed of the game. He catches up to it, but you're not going to try and start Carson Wentz year 1 if you don't have to. So you're looking at a situation where the Broncos aren't trying to find some rookie to man this ship. They had Brock Osweiler, but the Broncos can't afford to overpay a quarterback because they overpaid the defense. You got to pay one or the other. They chose defense. The defense is what got them there. The defense is what got them to the Super Bowl. And honestly, I think the number that they gave to Brock Osweiler, given everything else that they needed, because you have to pay these defensive guys to bring them back. Okay, you've got to leave the cap space to continue to make this defense a good defense. But at the same time, you need a quarterback. So where do you stand? You went from having 2 viable options in Peyton Manning and Brock Osweiler to having Peyton Manning retire and Brock Osweiler leave you to go to the Houston Texans, who are paying him 4 years, $72 million, averaging around $16 million a year that he's getting paid. So you're looking at a situation where the Broncos, we were looking at the Super Bowl champs, and they could probably not be back in the Super Bowl next year. That is a legitimate thing. If they don't solve this quarterback puzzle, and honestly, unless they, and the rumors are that they may trade for Colin Kaepernick. Unless they do that, I don't see how. Okay? Because Robert Griffin III is on the open market, and there are a lot of people that like him. You're not getting him cheaper than Brock. At that point, you should have just paid Brock the money. Now, the implications of Brock Osweiler going to the Texans is that he enters our wonderful, wonderful division of the AFC South, which I was just saying yesterday is wide open. Okay, even if you're bad in the AFC South, that is a wide open division. Andrew Luck is the only member of the Indianapolis Colts. Sure, there's some guys over there named Moncrief and Gore, but Andrew Luck is the Indianapolis Colts. If he's not healthy, they're not healthy as a team. That's as open and shut with them as you could possibly get. With the Jaguars, they're still building, they're still developing. That defense, especially that front 7, is impressive. Blake Bortles he's had his ups and downs, but he's been impressive also. Who knows what you get from the Jags this season? I have no idea. I have no earthly clue. And the Titans, obviously, are in the same boat as the Jags. You've got a young quarterback. He's had his ups and downs. Your defense is improving, and you're looking to add weapons around him, bringing in DeMarco Murray to give him a little bit of relief. Where do you go from there if you're the Texans? And all of these teams had a chance to win this division, this awful, awful division of football, because the Texans have no quarterback or had no quarterback. Now the Brock Osweilers are joining the fun bunch. Firstly, this is a good time to point out the AFC South might have sneaky in the next 3 to 4 years a monopoly on the league's best quarterbacks. If Bortles pans out, if Mariota pans out, if Osweiler pans out, you're looking at 3 guys who could be, honestly, three of the best quarterbacks in the league, if not in the top half of quarterbacks in the league, even in that top 10 conversation down the road as they get some more experience under their belt. Who am I missing from the AFC South? And Andrew Luck, obviously. Andrew Luck is already up there in that stratosphere. So you're looking at the AFC South. There's a lot of good quarterbacks over there if Bortles and Mariota and Osweiler pan out. Osweiler, by the way, is only 25 years old. It seems like, because he was backing up Peyton Manning and he's been there for 3 years, it seems like he should be older. Okay? No, he's not older. Brock Osweiler's 25 years old. He's my age. So that makes me feel a little bit sad in a what am I doing with my life kind of way. But be that as it may, the AFC South got demonstratively better, and the wide open division got a little less wide open. I think that gives the Texans the advantage if Brock Osweiler plays as well as he did in those 7 games with Denver, if he plays that well in Houston, I think that gives Houston the edge, because the one thing that they were truly missing to be consistent was quarterback play. That, and if they could ever get 16 games out of Jadeveon Clowney, because I'm telling you, we haven't seen the best of that guy in the NFL or anything near it, just because of all the injuries. And you were hoping it wouldn't be an issue for him, because I'm a Jadeveon Clowney fan. Okay, we all saw the hit that in that bowl game against Michigan a few years back, and I became a Jadeveon Clowney fan that instant. I watched that hit and immediately started rooting for the guy. So I want to see him do well in the NFL. I want to see him help carry this defense to the next level, because you saw how devastating that could be in the Super Bowl when the Denver Broncos were all over the Carolina Panthers. But looking at the Texans, they clearly have the edge in the AFC South, and this division that I was like, oh, it's wide open because everybody's awful. Well, Houston gets a little bit less awful here. And, you know, in the NFL with a good quarterback, you can go from awful to pretty darn good and in no time at all. You can go to from awful to first, from worst to first in no time at all. And they finished first in that division. Again, because it's terrible. But now they're going to be finishing first in it because they're just a much better football team with a competent trigger man under center. Okay, like Osweiler's not perfect. He's got his flaws, but he's got a great feel for the game. He's a great passer. He's had the time to study behind Peyton Manning, which is invaluable. That's what you want. Okay, and so I don't know why the Broncos didn't try and compete with that a little bit more, because Brock Osweiler and his agent were most likely trying to use the Texans for leverage. You would stay with Denver if you could, right? Houston's not Super Bowl ready yet, but hey, someone made a great point today about Brock Osweiler not having to stay in the shadow of a Peyton Manning, not have to try and live up to the legacy that he left in Denver. Peyton was only in Denver for 4 years. And in that 4 years, he's basically one of the best Denver Broncos to ever play. All of the records that he managed to break while in a Broncos uniform, you don't want to be Brock Osweiler trying to live up to that legacy night in and night out. Do you really? It seems unfun. You can start over fresh, go to a Houston Texans team that's honestly not that far away from being a legit title contender if you have a few more pieces. You've got pieces on offense. You got DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver he scorches people. You can throw it to him. He's always open. You've got weapons on that Houston team. Bring back an Arian Foster if he's able to stay healthy. I'll check that. Actually, Arian Foster, I believe I got a report somewhere. Arian Foster was headed to the Jets, but Houston Texans are still a solid ball club because they did win a lot of games without Arian Foster last year. Arian Foster pulled his groin, which is one of the worst injuries, if not the worst injury in professional athletics. I can't think of something worse than that. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little bit of your time. I appreciate you tuning in to listen. Remember, the Hot News hotline is 423-800-8949. That is 800-8949. Give us a call if you have your sports takes. Another thing happening in the NFL is that running backs are moving around all over the place. You've got guys signing long-term deals that you don't think would sign them, like Doug Martin is staying in Tampa Bay. $35 million. 3 years, $35 million, I believe. And that's interesting because he's been so average. He's been such an average running back that I didn't think that he would do that. And that obviously impacts the NFC South a little bit. NFC South under a little bit of change. You've got Jameis Winston coming in. He's going to be 1 year wiser. The Atlanta Falcons, I don't know where they are. They start the season basically 7-0 and then proceed to lose just about every other game left in the season after that until they beat the Panthers near the end for no adequately explained reason. Just none. And I'm confused by that team in particular. I'm confused by the NFC South as a whole. I don't know if the Saints are good anymore or not. It's weird. You have a quarterback. You have a Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees. Drew Brees could foreseeably play long enough to beat Peyton Manning's record that Peyton Manning beat from Brett Favre of most touchdowns thrown in a career. Drew Brees is in the what? He's I want to say he's a few. He's not very many touchdowns back. He's in the 400s, and Peyton left that mark obviously very very high in the 500s. But you're looking at a situation in New Orleans where like you've got a great quarterback, you've got a great coach in Sean Payton. Why can't that team win? I don't understand exactly what's wrong with New Orleans and Atlanta. There are things happening in that division that don't make any sense. They could easily be in that discussion for one of the worst divisions in football. You'd have to imagine the AFC South is making a lot of attempts to not be in that conversation. And we could even do a power rankings of the best divisions in football, but the AFC South and the NFC South would have to rank closer to the bottom, wouldn't you say? I would think so. The NFC South is, I mean, the Panthers ran roughshod in a bad division of football, okay? There's no point during last season where we didn't bring up that the fact that the Panthers are winning a lot of football games, it's not easy to do. You winning football games regardless of the level of competition. If you're an NFL team playing another NFL team, that's a tough thing to do, is win football games. But the Panthers didn't exactly play the most difficult teams on earth. Go back and look through their schedule. They played a lot of teams that weren't very good, and they played a very bad Saints team twice. They played a very young Buccaneers team twice. They played the Falcons, who are terrible, twice. So anytime you have that on your schedule, and it doesn't take away from the greatness of the team, by the way, because Tom Brady and the Patriots have been beating their weak division for years. The Jets, the Bills, the Dolphins. That's 6 free victories. Well, really, it's 5 victories because the Dolphins always find a way to troll the Patriots at the end of the season. But overall, that's like 6 free victories. And the Patriots feasted on that, obviously, en route to finishing 12 and 4 and 14 and 2 year after year after year after year. Peyton Manning did it with the Colts. Just played in a division of football that was just dreadful. The AFC South was bad even back then. And what you got? 2 free victories from the Texans. Peyton Manning beating up Gary Kubiak for just years and years and years. You got the 2 free victories from the Jags. You got the 2 free victories from the Titans. I mean, it's like yearly. So don't feel embarrassed if you're Carolina that you just have a bad division of football around you. But make no mistake, the Saints are bad. The Falcons are bad. The Buccaneers are bad. And really only the Buccaneers are making any moves in a direction to not be bad anymore. I think that the Falcons probably do get better, but it would depend entirely on who they draft. I don't know if you can draft anybody that would make the Saints better because they seem like they should already be in a position to not stink as badly as they do. You would think. But here we are with a bad Saints team and no real explanation. Drew Brees injured for much of the season, on and off, and hopefully that shoulder that's been plaguing him doesn't become an issue. You can see what happens when over time the shoulders become an issue. See Dallas and Tony Romo and his reoccurring collarbone, which, it hurts to watch. It hurts to watch. I hope that's not a thing for the Saints. That's all I'm saying. So before we jump into basketball talk, because we're coming up to the NCAA tournament, which is my favorite time of the year. I like this time of year better than Christmas. I like this time of the year better than Christmas. There's a whole story as to why, but I like it better than Christmas. I like it better than I would say that my birthday, but my birthday coincides with this, you see. So that's part of the joy of the NCAA tournament. I love watching championship week. UTC, the Chattanooga Mocs, were able to win the SoCon tournament. So they are the regular season champs and the tournament champs. They've punched their ticket to the NCAA tournament. I expect them to be middle seeded somewhere. 13 seed, 12 seed. I can hope for that. And we're going to fill out brackets here at the station. Everybody's going to do it because I'm going to make everybody do it. I'm going to print out a bracket, and I'm going to stand over everyone's shoulder awkwardly while they fill it out. Maybe I'll do it online, and I'll have everybody join us. Have you join us? This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. My outro music is loud.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
I'm going to Carter Shooting Supply.
Carter Shooting Supply.
That's right, Carter Shooting Supply. They're having a great sale on all of their guns right now, and it's name brands like Smith & Wesson, Ruger, Springfield, their AR-15s. They've got the hottest gun in the land right now, the Sky 9mm. Man, it comes in all the cool colors. If you're an Alabama fan, they've got crimson. If you're a big orange fan, they've got an orange one. You know, all the women are loving the pink one and Tiffany blue. Plus, it has a lifetime warranty replacement. If the gun is stolen, all you need is your police report or receipt, and they'll replace it free. It has a 60-day full money-back guarantee. That's Carter Shooting Supply. They're in Harrison right there at 6210 Highway 58.
Are they online?
Yes, they are. That's cartershootingsupply.com, or give them a call, 423-344-1099. Now, this sale's not going to last too long, so you need to hurry up and get there. And they do have a great indoor shooting facility. You can get your Tennessee handgun carry permit also. That's Carter Shooting Supply, 423-344-1099. You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business, and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
Expect fair to partly cloudy skies to continue through the nighttime. Milder overnight lows into the lower 50s. For the midweek, more warm spring-like weather ahead through Thursday. Becoming breezy but dry, highs into the mid-70s with some showers rolling in later Friday. The Fresh Oil New Wine Conference at Abba's House continues through Thursday. Pastor Ron Phillips welcomes Perry Stone, Tommy Bates, Randy Caldwell, and others for this week of encouragement and renewal. For more, FONW.com. And I'm Source Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. Garden hire kills the bill. Constitutional handgun carry died in a vote for a bill sponsored by Republican Senator Mark Green from Clarksville on a 4-4 vote in the Senate Judiciary Committee on Tuesday. Bills have to get a majority vote in order to advance, and Senator Todd Gardenhire abstained from the vote, with 2 Republicans crossing the aisle to vote with 2 Democrats to vote against it. And Hamilton County Superintendent of Schools Rick Smith said in a tearful news conference that he will continue his term through the year 2019. At the news conference, he says, "I'm here to stay." The school board voted 5-4 on Monday to not accept a $269,000 buyout from Superintendent Smith's contract. At the same time, the board chose not to terminate his position either. There was previously a vote for interim superintendents, which has now been put on hold. Superintendent Smith said that the dispute about buying out his contract will not happen again. He said the recent controversy has been hard on his personal and professional life, and he preferred to keep quiet after the Ottawa rape scandal broke. We'll continue to bring you updates here on Hot News Talk Radio. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
Hot News Talk 1240.
Yo, I could fight with my intro music, but who's got the time? Like a fist fight, like an actual fist fight with the song. Like I have my boxing gloves in the car. I'll go get them. I will fight this song. But boy, I tell you what, it is something. But I want to talk about so many things today. So many things. And I don't even know particularly where to start. But let's start with the UFC, because I think that everyone who here's the thing, the UFC has not been around for that long. We're on UFC 196. The UFC has been doing these events pretty consistently since late 90s. And as it's gotten bigger, it's gotten more sophisticated. And as it's gotten more sophisticated, you've gotten more onlookers. And as you've gotten more onlookers, you've attracted more people who are experts. Okay, I'm not an expert. I'm not gonna pretend that I'm a UFC expert, that I'm a mixed martial arts expert. I got in on the act in about 2010, which is pretty late considering how successful it had been before that. But I'm one of your old fogey boxing fan types who was just like, look, the way the good Lord intended for men to fight one another is with their fists. You can't use your feet. You can't use your you can't. It's fine. It's fine. But I was that guy. I just wanted to watch boxing. That was the only fight sport that I would watch. And of course, I was watching a lot of boxing matches by myself because nobody watches boxing anymore. It is like baseball in my generation. I watch a lot of baseball games alone prior to the World Series because none of my friends, none of my peers my age watch baseball. Okay. I can count on one hand the amount of friends that I have that watch baseball, and none of them live near me anymore. So I just watch a lot of baseball alone. That's just what it is. Okay. So take that however you want to take that. All right. Here's the deal with the UFC. Just everyone is suddenly an expert. And we watched Conor McGregor get upset by Nate Diaz on Saturday night, and Holly Holm get upset by Miesha Tate. And everyone's an expert on the health of the UFC and UFC, how long it's going to last, and all of these things. And you're just like, really? The UFC has been doing this before. This cycle goes around and around. And it was all the way back to Anderson Silva. He loses to Chris Weidman. We're like, oh no, who's going to be the next star? Someone's going to show up. And if it's not someone new showing up, it's the same old people who are just reinventing themselves. You think Conor McGregor's done talking? I strongly urge you to look to Chael Sonnen as an example of a guy who stayed relevant in the UFC by continuing to run his mouth. Conor McGregor is not done by a long shot. He's going to talk and talk and talk until he upsets somebody enough to fight him. And Conor McGregor strings some wins together, and all of a sudden we're talking about Conor McGregor again. He's still going to have the swagger. I mean, you don't have to be undefeated. This isn't boxing. Like, a loss on a boxing resume looks really bad. If you're Floyd Mayweather and you lose a fight, we don't care about you. But Floyd hasn't lost any fights. That's part of the allure of Floyd. Okay, Manny Pacquiao had lost fights before, but he hadn't lost in a while. He gets knocked out by Marquez. We don't want to watch Pacquiao Mayweather anymore. We had to have some time away from that knockout before that became an interesting prospect to us. Okay? So I don't want to hear about how the UFC's dead. It's not boxing. Conor McGregor can keep talking. Conor McGregor can reinvent himself in a way that's going to make him continue to be relevant. And I think, as far as Holly Holm, Miesha Tate, and Ronda Rousey goes, the rock, paper, scissors of Holm, Tate, and Rousey is more interesting than just Ronda Rousey beating up everybody, or Holly Holm beating up everybody while we wait for her to twiddle her thumbs so that Ronda Rousey can come back and fight her again. I much like the idea of Ronda Rousey reclaiming the belt and Holm having to go back and see if she can get it again. Which, by the way, when Holly Holm beat Ronda Rousey, that was no fluke. She was dominating her from start to finish in that fight. If that fight hadn't been a knockout, she would have won by decision. She dominated the cage. She was tagging Ronda Rousey all over the place. She had her punch drunk from the beginning. So this idea that somehow Holly Holm has ruined everything by not waiting for Ronda Rousey to come back. And this, by the way, is not just experts. It's Dana White himself, the commissioner of the UFC, coming out and saying these things. I think that that's wrong. I don't know that you necessarily have to have that. Sports are just giant stories. Storylines. Where can you find the storylines? Anytime you have a situation where one team is just dominant and another team and all the other teams have to try and catch up, there aren't as many storylines there. That's why fans root for parity. You got to have a loss every once in a while. I think having a dynasty is great for sports, as much as it pains me to say it because I don't like dynasties. Like when you see the Patriots winning eternally, doesn't it just make you want to roll your eyes? Okay. Didn't you roll your eyes at the dynasty of the Lakers in the early 2000s? Didn't the Bulls get annoying after a while? I think they did. But they were also great for sports because when you have a dynasty, you're immediately recognizable as the best. Immediately. When you have dynasties in sports, that's what happens. But when you end up with some parity, another thing happens. Storylines emerge. I think you've got to have a good balance of the two. And honestly, all these people that are just like, oh, look, Dana White doesn't know what to do with the UFC. They don't have any more stars. Who's going to emerge? Like, nobody has to emerge. A loss every once in a while is great for some emerging stories. Can Ronda Rousey avenge her loss to Holly Holm? Okay. But more importantly, what if Ronda Rousey comes back to fight Miesha Tate and she loses? Now you've got a new storyline. What if Miesha Tate continues to win? Right? Then you've got Miesha Tate as the champ, as this person that could never overcome Ronda Rousey until one day she overcomes the person that beats Ronda Rousey and she overcomes Ronda Rousey. Like, you have storyline options all over the place if you're willing to actually look. That's one of those things that's going to be a really cool story in retrospect because it was sitting right in front of us and we didn't see it. Okay, what if Ronda Rousey comes back and beats Miesha Tate like she always does? Well, we can talk about how Ronda Rousey's return to form, how she's back on top of the mountain, and this belt is once again hers to lose. Holly Holm shows up, and then you've got one of two options. Either Holly Holm beats Ronda Rousey again, and you've got the world's greatest game of rock, paper, scissors happening between the three of them, or Ronda Rousey gets the monkey off her back, beats Holly Holm, keeps the belt, and I think that not only is she back to where she was in terms of popularity before she got knocked out, she's probably even higher. If she plays her cards right, you can market the nonsense out of this. I'm serious. There's storylines all over the place. You've just got to look out for them. They're there. Okay, and with Conor McGregor goes back down to his original weight and wins like he was winning previously, then the Nate Diaz fight is not just an outlier, but it's an outlier with a very specific reason, which is that he went up in weight to fight a man much larger than him that at the last second he knew he was fighting this guy. Nate Diaz had 14 days to try and get himself to a reasonable enough weight to even fight Conor McGregor. He was training for some marathon or something like that, was already in shape, but at a weight much heavier than Conor. Okay, and then Conor did some things in that fight as well that just got him beat. He unloaded all of his haymakers early, tired himself out. But on top of that, unloading all of those haymakers early on a much smaller man probably knocks that much smaller man unconscious. Just saying. So I'm looking at that and I'm like, man, everybody is a pessimist. Okay, I wouldn't describe myself as a cynic or a cynical person. I think you can kill a lot of things that are fun and enjoyable with cynicism. You really can. You can be so overly cynical that things that are truly good in life, you don't appreciate them until they're gone. You can kill a lot of things with cynicism. But I'm not an optimist either. I'm not on the other side of this thing going, wow, think how good this could turn out. But at the same time, I'm realistically looking at a bunch of really cool storylines in the UFC, and we're talking about doom and gloom. Who's the next star? I think the UFC's really lost a lot. And we all know in like 6 months, we're all going to be talking about Ronda Rousey and Conor McGregor again. They have not gone anywhere. They've gone nowhere at all. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little bit of your time. And I want to talk about the SEC tournament. The SEC tournament is starting today in Nashville, which, from what I understand, it's Wildcat country up there. It is Wildcat country up there. They are. Kentucky fans travel well. Okay, can we give them credit for that? Kentucky fans travel everywhere. They go everywhere. They blew out your city with that Kentucky blue, and they're some of the most consistent, reliable fans in sports. Okay, they're right up there with Bama fans for football. Well, really, like Bama fans, Georgia fans, and Vols fans, like to me in football. Those are some of the best fan bases I've ever seen in terms of they will go everywhere with that team. And I think it's even more impressive for the Vols because the Vols have had that downtime where they just haven't even been good. Like Butch Jones came in recently and now we're good, but the Vols weren't good for a really long time. That's a loyal fan base to me. Like you stick with your team through thick and thin, through better and much, much worse. And the Vols have done that. Kentucky fans are like that in basketball. And in the SEC, that's kind of hard to find just because it's not really a huge basketball conference. Everyone had high hopes for Ben Simmons and LSU, maybe even reviving that fan base. Like, that's not happening. But Tennessee's got a good chance in the tournament. They're going to play Auburn. And the interesting thing to note here is that Auburn is a team that Tennessee just beat to death earlier in the season. Just smeared them. Like, if you were to show how Tennessee and Auburn were matched up against each other, Auburn was a bug and Tennessee was a windshield, and they just smeared Auburn twice. I mean, Tennessee lost one in Auburn, but when they went back to Knoxville, Tennessee just smashed them. We knew who the better team was. Now, here's the thing. Kevin Punter Jr., who's having a fantastic season, foot surgery. So he's out. So this game becomes not only a little less interesting, but unfortunately, it becomes harder for Vols fans because you want to argue like Tennessee does deserve to be in the NCAA tournament. They've had a tough schedule, though surprisingly, a weaker schedule according to the RPI, the weaker schedule than UTC and ETSU. But they've played pretty solidly tough opponents. They've played at a high level, especially coming down the stretch. Rick Barnes galvanized this group, got them together. The only thing that I have a problem with now is that this injury is happening at the wrong time. And I mean, that's how injuries work, right? Like there's no injury that happens at the right time, I guess. But this injury could not have come at a worse time for them. And I hope that it doesn't really dash those hopes, but I don't see them coming back from that. Kevin Punter Jr. is a very, very good player, excellent even. And his shooting from long range has really, really helped the Vols this season. And without him, they become a more one-dimensional team. I don't know if this is as good a game as it was previously, because you've got, two teams. They're not rivals, but you've got some bad blood there. We're talking about storylines, right? Bruce Pearl, former coach of Tennessee. So you've got some storylines there that are interesting, would have been cool to explore, and we're probably not going to be able to explore them like at all. Auburn didn't have a great season, but here's a man that probably knows how to exploit Tennessee, if anything. And we're not going to see the best of that matchup. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. Thank you for joining me today, giving me just a little bit of your time. Before I march on forward, I have to tell you about the platforms where you can find us, where we can find you. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube are the places to look. Always search Hot News Talk Radio. We are the first thing that comes up. You can tweet at me personally at SportsCloud. I tweet things sometimes, and sometimes they're funny. They might even be funny. Sometimes they're news and informative, but sometimes they make you chuckle. I think. I hope. If it's not funny, don't tell me. I don't want to know. I want to live in this delusional land where I'm hilarious. So don't tell me. You can also leave us a message on YouTube, but you can listen to our classic episodes. We never call them old. Go into the archives and go back as far as you want. Catch the David Tulis show. Catch Binary with Russell Stroud. And, of course, catch me. Not only that, but hotnewstalkradio.com is where you can stream this show and others 24/7. And, we're the home of NASCAR in Chattanooga. Why wouldn't you want to stream Hot News Talk Radio? And you can find us in the TuneIn Radio app. It's absolutely free in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. Just simply download it to your mobile device, give us a follow, and press play. You'll have Hot News Talk Radio everywhere you go. So now that we've gotten all of those things out of the way, Matt Forte is headed to be with the New York Jets. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers choose to hang on to Doug Martin, and the day of the running back continues. Travis Benjamin is headed to the Chargers, which I think is just a huge pickup for them for a number of reasons. You've got Keenan Allen on one side, and now you've got Travis Benjamin on the other for Phillip Rivers. Oh, man. And my brother's a Chargers fan, so I tried to tell him this, but the Chargers lost games to the Raiders last year in really bad fashion. He's depressed. Okay, this is why parity matters, right? Because ultimately, when you talk about dynasties, and again, dynasties are great for sports, because when you think back to certain eras, the eras that have dynasties come back to memory much more easily. The Lakers and the Celtics in the 80s, the Bulls in the 90s. You remember these dynasties, the Lakers in the 2000s, the Spurs, always. You just have these memories. They come back much more easily. You can remember the Patriots dynasties. Even if they're like a dynasty of losses, you can remember the Bills in the 90s going to 4 Super Bowls. Maybe they didn't win any of them, but they went to 4, which is impressive in and of itself. So you have dynasties recalled more easily, and it's just more marketable. And the dynasty itself becomes a brand for the league. That's what you want if you're a league. Okay, the fact that the NBA has 4 teams that can win a title and everybody else is just kind of playing, you would think would be bad, but the Warriors being really good, the Cavs being really good, the Spurs being really good, the Thunder being really good, and everyone else just being actually makes the league more money. There is no time that you miss to just run the Warriors out there, run the Spurs out there, and just keep putting them on national TV against anybody. You'll make money. Okay, people just watch football, so it's a little bit different in football. But you feel like, as a fan, like it's a farce when your team doesn't have a chance to win. Dynasties make everyone else feel sad in that regard. That just for the general watching of the game, dynasties are great. When you're a specific fan of a specific team and you don't feel like your team's got a shot, It's hard. That's where my brother is with the Chargers, is that, you don't think that your team's legitimately got a chance to win. And the NFL is really good at selling you parity and not really having any. And let me explain what I mean. The NFL sells you parity, okay? Everyone says this all the time. Anybody can make it. You see the Ravens go on a run. You see the Giants go on a run. These teams are the exception and not the rule. Let me say that again. These teams, the Ravens going on a run in the playoffs to win a Super Bowl, the Giants going on a couple of runs in the playoffs to win a Super Bowl, they are the exception and not the rule. The rule usually is if you were 4-12 last year, you're going to be 5-11 this year. If you were 3-13 last year, you're probably going to be, 2-14 this year. You're not making quantum leaps into the playoff. It's possible. You might be able to. I'm not going to say anything is impossible, but I will say that it's highly implausible. And, you notice that the same four teams, the Patriots, the Colts, and any team that's got Peyton Manning on it, consistently wins and gets to the playoffs. The Steelers, it's been the same four teams, you guys. Representing the AFC, it's been the Colts and the Patriots forever. Representing the NFC, there's a little bit more parity, but the Giants seem to always make it. It's the same four teams. And it's always been that way. But the NFL does a really good job of making you forget that. Part of that, I guess, is that the offseason is just so long, you forget that your team didn't have a chance. And you've got a small amount of games. You've got 16 games. So your odds are better. They're just better. In an 82-game NBA season, college football doesn't even try to sell you parity. You know who the good teams are, and every week there's a poll that confirms that not your team is at the top, unless you're Alabama. Then if you're Alabama, that's where you expect to be always, and that's where you should be. Because Nick Saban's the heck of a coach, and they always recruit well. They always have the best players. The top is where you should be if you're Alabama. And everybody else just kind of falls in line, and you hope you get lucky enough to beat them, which, this upcoming college football season, now that, I'm not going to say it's parity, but at least in the SEC, we've got some things way more wide open. Tennessee almost beat Alabama. Georgia almost beat Alabama. Can Kirby Smart continue that legacy? Can Tennessee take the next step to being a truly dominant team in the SEC? It's entirely possible, and I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. It's not quite parity. Okay, you're still looking at classic teams that have always been at the top. Vanderbilt's not suddenly racing to the top of the league, but you're looking at a situation where some teams that had been down, had underachieved, may actually take that giant gorilla and just toss them off their back. So I'm looking forward to this season in college football, and I'm looking forward to the NFL draft. I know I haven't done the draft breakdowns like I said I would, but that's because college basketball is coming, and I don't have the time that I thought I would have. I'm going to get back to them, though, folks. And remember, you've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. In the middle of our street,
Hi, I'm Sabrina with Sabrina Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at sabrinarealty.com.